Hi, welcome to me and my bass. Today something completely different. Ever wonder what makes a bass truly iconic? What if I told you that some of the most innovative and groundbreaking basses almost made it to legendary status but just missed the spotlight? Join me as we uncover the unsung heroes of the low end, the almost famous instruments that could have changed music history as we know it. Let's check them out. The Gibson Victory bass. Gibson tried to take on Fender in the early 80s and built a tank with active electronics and versatility. But the looks and the weight are worth too much. Today it's a cult classic. The story. Gibson attempts to dethrone Fender's P-bass and jazz bass dominance. Why it almost made it? Well, it had active electronics, it had a solid build and versatile tone. Why it didn't? It was too heavy and odd looking for most players at the time. Legacy, regarded today as a sleeper classic. 2. PVT40, a tone monster and weightlifter's dream. Great sound, but 30 pounds of regret for your shoulders. Players are finally rediscovering it. The story. PV all-American powerhouse bass with cutting-edge electronics. Why it almost made it? It was unmatched tonal flexibility and had a rugged construction. Why it didn't? Infamously heavy, some weight nearly 30 pounds. 13 pounds, excuse me. Legacy, now prized for by collectors for its growl durability and retro appeal. 3. Yamaha BB5000, one of the first mass market 5 strings. Perfect for pros, but it came too early. The world wasn't ready for that extra low B yet. The story, among the first mass-produced 5-string basses. Why it almost made it? Great build quality and deep tone, loved by pros. Why it didn't? It arrived before the 5-string were mainstream. Legacy, a trailblazer for modern extended range basses. 4. Aria Pro SB1000, a Japanese perfection favored by Cliff Burton, but limited marketing meant it flew under the radar. The story, the Japanese craftsmanship at its peak, championed by Cliff Burton. Why it almost made it? Beautiful build, killer tone shaping. Why it didn't? Limited global marketing kept it obscure. Legacy, it's a cult favorite, especially among metal and prog players. 5. G&L L2000, Leo Fender's own evolution of the jazz and precision, and yet the Fender name overshadowed his finest design. The story, Leo Fender's ultimate evolution of his bass designs. Why it almost made it? Huge tonal palette, active, passive versatility. Why it didn't? Fender's own legacy overshadowed G&L's innovations. Legacy, beloved by working pros who know what it can do. 6. Music Man Sabre, the dual humbucking sibling of the Stingray. Technically great, but players stuck with the original. The story, dual humbucker sibling to the Stingray. Well, why it almost made it? Warm, powerful tone and excellent build. Why it didn't? Players stuck with the more iconic Stingray. Legacy, now seen as an underappreciated gem from Music Man's golden era. 7. Rickenbacker 4004 Cheyenne. Modernized rig with improved economics, purist cried heresy and it disappeared quickly. The story, a modern take on the classic rig 4001 or 4003. Why it almost made it? It had a slicker feel and improved economics. Why it didn't? Purists wanted the vintage rigs. Others saw it as overpriced. The Legacy, a what-if chapter in the rig history, rare and collectible. 8. Fender Performer Bass Futuristics, fast and funky, but bad timing during Fender's ownership change killed it before it had a chance. The story, designed during the Fender CBS to FMIC transition, and why it almost made it: futuristic design, fast neck and hot tone. Why it didn't? Discontinued almost immediately after ownership changed. Legacy, a quirky collector favorite that hinted at what Fender could have been. 9. Guild Pilot, sleek 80s design and great playability. Sadly, Guild's name wasn't cool enough in the MTV era. The story, Guild's entry into the modern slim-bodied bass era. Why it almost made it, great playability, punchy sound, why it didn't, overshadowed by bigger brands in the 80s. Legacy, now considered one of Gil's coolest sleeper instruments. 10. Washburn Status 1000, wooden neck, British design, US production, everything right except the price tag. The story, collaboration with Status Graphite, why it almost made it, super stable tuning and futuristic looks, why it didn't, expensive to produce and too niche for the market. Legacy, respected for its engineering and ahead of its time materials. Kramer Juke, headless, aluminum neck, pure 80s, a Steinberger wannabe that was just too weird for the most. The story, Kramer's headless answers to the Steinberger boom. Why it almost made it, it was compact, modern and flashy for the times. Why it didn't, aluminum necks divided players, trend faded fast. Legacy, a fun collectible symbol of the early 80s. 12. Steinberger XP2 tried to make the futuristic L series more traditional, ended up still too odd. Synth pop players loved it though. The story, a boat oar shaped spin-off of the L series. Why it almost made it, same revolutionary tone in a more traditional body. Why it didn't, still too unconventional for most bassists. Legacy, iconic among synth pop new wave enthusiasts. 13. Spector NS2A, a Korean-made version of the famous NS2. Excellent build, but dismissed as a budget copy. The story, Korean-built versions of the famous US NS2. Why it almost made it, high quality built at an affordable price. Why it didn't, labeled as a budget model and overlooked. Legacy, a well-loved alternative for players who want that Spector growl. 14. Carvin LB17 custom order. US craftsmanship at factory prices, but with no retail presence it stayed underground. The story, US made custom order bass without the boutique price. Why it almost made it, excellent tone woods and customization. Why it didn't, direct to consumer model, limited exposure. The Legacy, a hidden gem for tone snobs who don't care about logos. 15. Honor B2A, licensed Steinberger copy. Solid tone, tiny price tag and eternally labeled a budget oddity. The story, licensed Steinberger copy with active electronics. Why it almost made it, well, it's affordable, great tone and portable. Why it didn't, it has seen as a knockoff during an already short-lived trend. Legacy, loved by travelers and collectors of quirky 80s gear. 16. Ibanez Musician Series, beautiful tone, stellar build and even Sting used one. But flashy 80s trends pushed it aside. The story, Ibanez high-end craftsmanship's peak. Why it almost made it, killer build and tone used by Sting early on. Why it didn't, lost out to flashier 80s super basses. Legacy, a vintage favorite for tone purists. 17. Epiphone Embassy Deluxe. Short scale punch and style, but Gibson killed the production too early. Vintage gold now. The story, Epiphone's answer to the Gibson Thunderbird. Why it almost made it, light, stylish and punchy. Why it didn't, production was short-lived before Gibson absorbed Epiphone. Legacy, a rare bird with vintage coolness to spare. 18. Fender Zone Bass. Fender went modern with active electronics and fans said no thanks. Ahead of its time. The story, Fender's attempt at a modern active bass for new gen players. Why it almost made it, great tone, versatility, sleek design. Why it didn't, Fender purists resisted the active electronics and the body shape. Legacy, a future cult favorite for its experimental flair. 19. Warwick Streamer LX. Gorgeous European craftsmanship with a price tag to match. Too niche outside Europe, but tone for days. The story, a refined take on Warwick's signature curved body design. Why it almost made it, incredible build and unique mid-range punch. Why it didn't, it was too expensive outside of Europe and hard to find in stores. Legacy, revered among players who prize tone over hype. 20. Pedula MVP Buzz Bass Boutique Build. Iconic, fretless tone, but too pricey and too specialized. A true player's bass, not a commercial one. The story, boutique craftsmanship with a signature fretless choice. Why it almost made it, gorgeous build and unmistakable tone. Why it didn't, it was too pricey and too niche for most players. Legacy still thought after by fusion and session players who know. And there you have it. There were of course a couple of basses where I can doubt if that is really the case, like for instance the Honer, which is just a Steinberger knockoff, but okay, let's say these are 20 basses. Maybe you missed them, maybe you don't, and I love to talk about them. I love to talk about bass. That's why the channel is called Me and My Bass. Okay, that's it for this episode. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. I'd like to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Until next time, see you. Bye bye. Bass!